Hello, it is your girl Marcie Thomas, and I am here on this evening for a wonderful opportunity to chat with you all and just talk about what it means to live well as Black women. So come on in the room, and hopefully we can get started here in a couple of seconds. As I said, my name is Marcie Thomas, the founder of Brown Girl Collective and Live Well Sister. Live Well Sister was really started as a way for me to be able to reach out and speak with wonderful Black women, and there'll be some men coming along as well from time to time who can just help us live our best lives. Because as we know, we are always involved in our careers or with our families, all these different things that we're doing. And sometimes we can find success or happiness or joy in one area of our lives and maybe be having some challenges in other areas. So the whole purpose of Live Well Sister is to come to you and talk about spiritual things, about our self-love, about relationships, about how we work and manage ourselves in the workplace with our careers and our passions, how we manage that money, because that's important, how we give back to others, and last of all, how we can live our lives joyously. Tonight's guest is actually going to touch on several of those things in her new book that we'll be talking about. So as you join the room, just let us know where you're joining us from, and I'm going to go ahead and announce or introduce our guest for this evening. With us this evening is Reverend Jacqui Lewis, PhD, who is an author, activist, preacher, and public theologian who is the first African American, the first of color, and the first female senior minister at the Progressive Multicultural Middle Collegiate Church in Manhattan, New York. She is a graduate of Princeton Theological Seminary and Drew University. She is the creator of the MSNBC online show Just Faith and the PBS show Faith and Justice, in which she leads important conversations about culture and events. Dr. Lewis has been on the Today Show, All In with Chris Hayes, AM Joy, the Melissa Harris Perry Show, New York One, ABC, NBC, PBS, CBS, everywhere basically, and WPIX, where she recently covered the Brooklyn Memorial for George Floyd. She is author of several books, one of which we'll be discussing tonight, which is Fierce Love. And as you can see, I've got a lot of good things bookmarked here. And so we'll be talking about that book tonight. And without any further delay, we'll go ahead and bring on the lovely Reverend Dr. Jacqui. Hold on one second, good people. Here we
go. Hey.
And there she is. Welcome.
Look at you, beautiful sister. It's good to be with you.
Thank you. It's such an honor to have you here, and it was really an honor to read your new book, Fierce Love. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule with all that you have going on to be with us and to tell us a little bit about your work and all you have going on.
Well, one of the things that has me busy is this book launching in the middle of these days where we are all still battling COVID. Right. And battling racism,
right,
and battling white supremacy. And in my particular instance, also, we had a fire just about a year ago at the church. So I feel like I birthed a book about fierce love in the midst of COVID and a fire. And I got to say, Marcie, it was both kind of giving birth to a baby, but also a thing that healed my soul to get these words on a page that I hope will be healing for others as well.
Absolutely. And it seems like we have a little bit of a delay. So everyone who's watching, just bear with us because I'm not sure what's causing that delay, but make sure you can all hear us. And actually, I just lost you for a second. So hold on for a second. Hopefully, Jacqui way back in the room because we were getting a little bit of feedback there. But as she was mentioning, this is a book that was recently released, actually just last week. And it's an opportunity for her to just talk to us about what it means to love and how we can learn to love ourselves fiercely and then go on and love others as well. Okay, let me go ahead and bring her back on. I see she's here.
Yep, my
All
computer was
right, I'm
like,
not
"That's
quite
not
sure
good.
what
Let's do it
happened.
again." Me either. It was like, "Let's do that again."
Oh,
Here we are.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, all right. So I was just saying, of course, this just came out about a week ago. So we know that you're really busy in going and promoting that and letting people know about what it means to love fiercely. And as I mentioned, I really enjoyed reading the book. It just shares so many things, as I mentioned, that we like to do here with Live Well Sister, but also just puts a different spin on things as well. So
Can you tell me what I'm delighted when I see somebody has marked up a book, Marcie. What
oh
were you
yes,
drawn to
oh yes.
in the book?
Well, the book,
Look
what
at
I was
you.
really drawn to, just the story,
Mhm.
right? The stories, because one of the things that you talk about, that is the whole purpose of us being able to tell our stories and use our stories as a form of healing, beginning with ourselves and then branching out. I also love the fact that you were very transparent with a lot of things that have happened in your own life. And
Right.
so, that those are some of the things that I'm bookmarking, just those stories as you were working through them and talking about your family and just some of your personal experience and keeping it real. Because
Yeah.
one thing, oftentimes when we think of people in ministry, we think of a certain way that a minister is supposed to be or a certain way that they're supposed to share. But you were very honest, open, and real. And that was one of the things I appreciated and why I have so much bookmarked.
I'm so grateful. I wish I could write another chapter to the book right now. And this would be the way my dad, who is a character in the book, in a real life way,
Mm-hmm.
shaping me, forming me, teaching me to be an activist. That first time I'm called the N word, and he demands
Mm-hmm.
reparations from the base commander and the girl who called me the N word.
Mm-hmm.
But also, he's a foil, right? I'm a girl child. He's a man. I'm trying to learn how to speak up, to say my truth, to have a voice. And sometimes that means we have conflict. But the other day, Marcie, my dad said,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
"Baby girl, I finished your book. I read it cover to cover." That's how he talks. And I'll tell you something else. You're so honest in this book. You're so real in this book. I'm so proud of
Mm-hmm.
you. The way you're real will help other people be real. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what? This is so good, Dad. It had me crying down the street on the way to the dentist to have my dad proof text fierce love in this way that
Mm-hmm.
he was my hero when I was a baby girl. He taught me how to change tires and cut my brother's hair. Um, was for us every football game, every anything you did. He was there taking pictures. And then, in your adolescence, you and your parents can bump heads, and we did. One of the strongest memories of my coming to be a woman is bumping heads with my dad when I'm about 44 years old, and I've graduated with my PhD, and he's being stank. You know that word, stank, with my friend at the party.
Right.
And I'm like, oh no, you cannot treat a grown woman like this. And we have a really big
Right.
conflict that is not, that is just verbal, but look, Dad, this isn't going to work. And Marcie, my dad wanted it to work. So he hung in there and we hung in
Mm-hmm.
together. And I was home a couple weeks ago for his birthday, and he's laying out fried chicken and potato salad and coleslaw because that's what I love the most. And just loving me like he would have when I was a little girl, teaching me how to make a cursive B.
Mm-hmm.
I could not do that. So I'm wanting to say that fierce
Oh wow.
love has to tell the truth, has to stand up for itself, has to confront boldly, has to be vulnerable enough to say this doesn't work. And then I think in the end, fierce love helps us to have stronger relationships, both interpersonally inside our families, but also in a world that is diverse. If we don't tell the truth to each other and bump into each other a little bit, I don't know that we can honestly make it better. So my dad is my hero, even though I tell his business a little bit in the book. For sure.
Right, right, and that is something though, because as I was reading, thinking about even in my own life sometimes, and these are some of the things you touch on in the book, like being honest and telling your truth, speaking the
Yeah.
truth, and as the Bible would say, to speak the truth in
In
love or
love.
with love,
Right.
and
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah, that's hard because you want to tell your truth
Mm-hmm.
because there may be a healing or something that you're seeking, but that especially when those people are still in the land of the living, that
Mm-hmm.
can be a challenge. So,
Absolutely, it
it
is.
really is. Yeah, and I'm thinking of, I don't know if anybody watches Queen Sugar, how Nova wrote this book and everybody was mad at her. She wrote the
That's right.
book even though she was speaking truth.
Yeah.
Everybody's mad, after the
That's
fact.
right.
So
That's
it's
right.
a blessing that you were able to do that and tell your story and have your family or your dad, be understand and actually embrace the fact that you did and love the fact that you did.
And be proud of it. I think we are Black women who grew up in a context where um, our families have had trauma, and that makes you
Mm.
circle your wagons and don't put your business in the street, don't tell our stories, type of thing. But those kinds of secrets, Marcie, can also really cripple us. And so it is really a
Right.
beautiful thing in which my dad, my family has supported my work, period. Like my work of trying to cross borders. I mean, to be honest, as a straight Black woman leading a church that's full of queer people, not my immediate family,
Mm-hmm.
but some of the people in my family were like, "What are you doing? Is that really okay?" Because what they thought of as Christian,
Mm.
right, was not that. And I've been a trailblazer in some
Right.
ways around multicultural, multi-ethnic, um, LGBTQ friendly, forward, progressive, women's choice. I have taught my family fierce love in some ways that we didn't learn as little kids about what it meant to be sort of
Right.
on the edge, loving all the folks.
Absolutely, absolutely, and again, that's one of the things that I really love about the book because it's like I mean, for those many of who grew up in the Christian church, there is definitely a certain way in
Yeah,
which you are taught, and a lot of things some things are out of context, and
right.
some things before that time, in full disclosure, I actually went to seminary for a while myself.
Where
I
did you
didn't
go to? Where did you go
graduate,
to
but I
school? Where did you go? Where did you go?
Ashland Seminary in Ohio.
Oh wow, yeah.
Ashland Theological
Okay.
Seminary, yes. Yes. So, one of the things that doing that for me helped me to see things in a broader view, wherein sometimes you may be in a church, like I said, it's one way and it's based upon what that pastor thinks and believes, or maybe the
Right.
doctrine of that church's history believes and all of that. But for me, what it did was open my eyes and open up my mind in different
Yes.
ways to say, there's more than one way to love God. There's more than one way to embrace God. There's more than one way to embrace others. So,
That's right.
that was one of the things that I also enjoyed about your book because I like you talk about being seen. I felt seen when I read those things
Right.
because, like, okay, there is more than one, there is a broader view. There is a
More
way
than
to
one.
connect with others who are different from us, or have different faith or belief systems than us. There is still a way for us to come together and, operate in fierce love, which is what your book is all about ultimately.
I think it's such an important thing for us as Black women to be leaders, Marcie, in this place where we have. I mean, just think about our foremothers who taught us about um, I'm thinking about Alice Walker, that all our cousins are, all the cousins are yellow or pink, or the way she says it in her definition of womanism, or the way,
Mm-hmm.
Toni Morrison in the sermon of Baby Suggs Holy, tells us to love our flesh. The way that we hear from Shug Avery, that God will be upset if we don't walk by the color purple and think it's beautiful. There and then like scholars like
Mm-hmm.
Dolores Williams or Katie Cannon. I feel like we as Black women have had to be multivocal, have had to speak more than one language, have had to be double conscious, triple conscious, quadrenal conscious to do some Du Bois, to code switch, to be in the gap, to stand in the middle, to raise our families while caring for white folks' kids and turning back to our own kids and raising them. And I think it's so beautiful, the work you do in this space. I think for all of us as Black women to think we are blessed, actually, with the ability to see many things at the same time. And because we can see many things at the same time, we can love many things at the same time. And I think we have taught the world how to do that, to stand and put our fists up and say Black Lives Matter at the same time as we say revolutionary love, love, love in Ferguson, to have heartbroken, cracked wide open grief at the trauma that we experience, but at the same time to set a table for others to come, to love our Black men and to love Black women, to love all the people. I think is something fierce that we have been given as a gift to the universe. So I write this book in honor of my mom, who I lost 4 years ago, but who taught me how to love all the people, but also how to stand up for myself, in honor of her mother, my dear, who worked in a hospital in Ruleville, Mississippi, lived down the street from Fannie Lou Hamer, and told us to pray for our enemies, but also to make friends out of everybody, There's something about the both and in that. Does that resonate for you?
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Just to be able to, I'm just thinking about in my own family, history, just that thing, as you said, us being able to look in different spaces and love and be open and, in all those multitude of ways. So yes, that definitely resonates. And you mentioning your mom, I know when we spoke earlier, you said something about a part of the book that I really loved. And one of the pieces that I really loved is when you talked about how your mom was teaching you about being honest and telling the truth, not to be a liar.
Right. Exactly.
And how important that is, to be honest in so many different ways. And wow. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a little bit. It's like you were saying that, you came to understand that being honest is an essential building block in your self-love as well, because it's not always just about being honest with others. It's about knowing how to love yourself. To learn to love myself, I had to gaze upon myself honestly. I couldn't love what was out of view, what was unspoken about myself in contemplation of who I was becoming. I needed to know myself authentically in order to appreciate myself. A facade or persona is too fake to love. Just as in any relationship, lies are prophylactic, blocking intimacy. The first truth in self-love is I am enough. You are enough. This truth refutes any lie that implies that you're not.
Yes.
So
yes.
So that just means a lot to me because, one of the things is lately I've been dealing with or talking to in conversation with various friends who are at a phase of their life where they're trying to discover who they are or figure out how to love themselves or whatever. And, being able to be honest is the beginning of that, to be honest with yourself, no matter what it is, even when it's difficult to be honest with yourself. But, doing that and being, yeah.
That's right. It is a discipline, right? Because too many of us have been taught that in order to survive or be acceptable or pass for corporate or pick a metaphor, that we mask who we really are. And I would say, as a psychologist, Marcie, everybody got a little false self. If you're driving down the street and somebody's cutting you off and you want to cuss them out and you don't, that's you mobilizing the appropriate amount of false self, right? To edit yourself, to have good manners, to be polite, to squash the rage or the id. That is so appropriate, right? But there's another
Mm-hmm.
level of that where, from the way we do our hair, from what we think we need to wear, right, from how we adorn ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
from how we speak, uh, the chocolatiest of us have been taught to squash ourselves in order to make it. And I think the space
Mm-hmm.
between who we
Mm-hmm.
really are and what we show the world is often a painful space. And there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
toxicity in that space. So my mom, girl, I didn't know what Terry meant. She was like, "A liar will not tarry in God's sight." I was like, what is Terry? I don't know, but she just would say it so much that it really was Terry, what? But like she was like, you cannot lie. In Emma Lewis's world, you could not lie. And as I live into, then also I can be a loving truth teller, right? I don't have to smash your soul to tell the truth. I can use nonviolent
Right. Right.
communication and say, where I'll be like, but like, I feel hurt by that, or that makes me uncomfortable, or I wonder if we
Mm-hmm.
could say that differently, or, so we can be, and sometimes you just got to go, no. But often I think
Right.
the, yeah, sometimes a fist up and yelling is right. That fact. But how many other different kinds of
Right.
discourses do we have for truth telling that bring people along with us?
Mm-hmm.
Protest is one, yes,
Absolutely.
rebellion is appropriate, right? All of that. But then sometimes in here with the people close to us, you can be truthful to yourself and to them without war.
Mm-hmm.
And especially as we think about going home for the holidays for the first time, many of us in 2 years, how do you talk
Gosh,
to, I
yeah.
just always say, how you talk to Uncle Bob and Aunt May, at the table when you go home for Thanksgiving?
Mm-hmm.
How are you truthful in a way that also just has dignity, right, for our elders and
Absolutely.
those around us, So it
Absolutely.
is
That is so true. And, many people are doing that for the first time in a while. So,
right.
yeah, it would. This period of time has been that of a lot of self-reflection. So now all, some of the growth or things we may have figured out now to go back into those environments and be able to be authentically who we are. Yeah, that is, a challenge to figure out how to do that. So
It
in the
is.
book, you use the concept of ubuntu
Yep.
to really pull together and talk about what it means to love fiercely or to come together as a collective. So tell us a little bit about that for those who might not be familiar with that
I will
concept.
happily tell us about Ubuntu. I was trying to practice how to say the Zulu for many weeks, Umuntu, Ubuntu, Ubuntu. I'm like, what, girl? I can't click. I don't know. But a human is a human through other human. Umuntu, Ubuntu,
Mm-hmm.
Ubuntu. A human is a human through other humans. This predates much of the world's religions, right? It's in the cradle of civilization. It's Zulu, it's South African, and we're all African people. So I feel much like when we got up and walked out of the cave into the light and said, "Oh my gosh, there's light out here. What do we need to do?" We knew we needed each other. I think we have a strong memory
Mm-hmm.
of what it's like to need the other person. And this idea
Right.
is my hunger makes your stomach growl. Your elders don't have health care. I need to think
Mm-hmm.
about policies. Your kids don't have clean drinking water in Detroit. How do I care about that? And this interrelatedness of humanity, Dr. King said, we're all woven together in a garment of humanity. It's very Gandhi. It's very King, and it's very womanist, right? To
Mm-hmm.
say, we complete each other. We're going to get to the promised land together. So what happened to us? What happened to where we lost that and became this Western world of individualism, radical individualism, and I just matters my people. Only my people matter in my corner, my pocketbook, my bank account. So I'm really trying to say, honestly, that I think we know this, that it's in our bones
Mm-hmm.
how to survive together. And we need to remember that, and that actually the religion I'm trying to convert us to, and I am trying to convert us. I'm not going to lie about that. I am trying to convert us to a religion, but it's not, it's just love. Love your
Right.
neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love yourself so you can love your neighbor. Don't withhold from someone
Absolutely.
that which you want, right? Don't break anyone's heart, one tradition says. What would the world look like, Marcie, if
Mm.
we walked around thinking that might break Marcie's heart? What if I don't break her
Wow.
heart? You know?
Wow. You know, that's something because I mean, and there's so many things that just came to mind when you said that. Just conversations. Because matter of fact, a friend and I, and mine, my best friend, we were talking about relationships, romantic relationships, and there's someone that she has been kind of dealing with back and forth for a while. But then she's like, well, right now I don't really want to do because I'm not in a place to what. And I'm like, well, you honest, speak your truth because you don't
Yeah.
want to break this person's heart. If they've got their
Mhm.
mindset on being with you in a certain way and you're not in a space to do that, instead of, going because, hey, he's going to take me out to dinner, or, some
Yeah.
guys, they might
Yeah.
go bills,
Yeah. Right.
instead of doing that, going
Yeah.
in a good space to go ahead and say, you know what, not right now, not to say never, but not
Yeah.
right now.
Not
And
right now.
that's the loving thing to do. Kind
I
thing
think
to
so,
do.
right? Like
Yeah.
ask for what you need. Be honest. Do not try to fool yourself or fool other people. I think that's the hardest truth of all, isn't it? As we grow up, that honestly,
Mm-hmm.
when you just tell the truth, people might
Right.
not love that, but they'll respect you, and you respect
Right.
you.
Right.
And that's the beginning of everything, that respect and dignity that comes from authenticity. I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's
Absolutely.
revolutionary.
I would. Right. I would agree. And, just in reading the book, I like the fact that you do start with yourself.
Mhm.
You gotta start with you because a lot of times we look so outward into,
Right?
how can I be of service to someone else? How can I love someone else? How can I give
Right.
someone else what they need? But we don't even know who we are.
What
We
we need.
haven't,
Right.
we need to deal with within
Right.
ourselves, and we can become so other centered that you really don't know how to take care of yourself, because
That's
I
right.
believe that relationships should be a mutual admiration
That's
society
right.
type of
Yep.
situation where I'm
Yeah.
loving on you and you're loving on me, and understanding our love languages and all these different things. But when everything's so focused outward, or everything is so focused, like you mentioned in the book, that there were some things that you experienced that caused you to put on a certain persona,
Yeah.
and this is the way you're living because this is the persona that you carry to try to protect yourself, or
Yep.
because that's the thing will accept, you know getting stuck in that space and never being able to open up and fully be who you are. I think
That's
it
right.
is important to kind of start there and get the help that we need, and you mentioned, whether it's spiritual or a therapist or
Yes.
whatever,
Yep.
friend,
Yep.
just being able to get to that space.
To get someone to just to say, look, this hurts. It hurts right here. Where does it hurt? It hurts right here. I love that. I tell a funny story in the book about talking to my therapist. I believe in therapy. I really do. And as a clergy with a PhD in psych and religion, I've done a lot of counseling. And I think sometimes you just need somebody to help you change your story, to say, baby, I hear you say this, and I see you as this, or let's make meaning of this together. Look at what you did. Look at how resilient you are. Look at how you overcame that. Look at how you forgave that. Look at how look at your muscle that you grew around that place where you're hurting. And sometimes you can do it by yourself. I have this exercise in the book of kind of interrogating your own story. What's the title of my book that I'm writing for myself, and what chapter am I in right now? Where do I want to be in the end of this? And that, I think that's good. Like, pick up your story and look at it for meaning. But sometimes you need You need help for that. So one time, my therapist and I, in some of this crazy George Floyd time, I'm just calling it the George Floyd horrible, right? Last year time, I was heartbreaking and talking to her, and I was like, I just don't know what I'm going to do about the church that burned down and all the things that were going on. And she goes, just, it's okay. You don't know now, but you're going to know. You're going to know. Stay right there. Just stay right there where it hurts. If you stay right there where it hurts, it's going to come. It's going to become clear. It's going to make itself plain. And she says, you're going to give birth to it, the insight. And it's going to come. And she pauses and says, right out of your vagina. I mean, she just cracks me up with like it's a shocking, what?
Right. Like, what?
My vagina. And my publisher says, do we need that story? I'm like, absolutely we do, because in fact, that is biologically correct for many of us, but for any of us, where the pain is, where the struggle is, where the uncertainty is, where we're hovering your friend who's wondering what to do about this relationship, if we stay where it hurts and we just focus on it, I think there's insight there. And the insight comes from the wrestling and the soreness and the heartbreak and the pain. And so we can run from it. And that's what I did as a little person, running from a bad touch story that I tell in the book. Like, I didn't know what to do with all that. But when I finally put it squarely in front of me, Marcie, I could take off my mask and stop thinking I had to be perfect to make that go away, because I couldn't make it go away, right? It was what it was, you know?
Right.
And that place where the hurt was, I grew empathy and understanding and wisdom and strength. And I'm not wishing that on anybody, but you know how much that's a part of so many of our stories. So can you just love yourself? And I'm a survivor. I got through that. I did that. I'm going to be okay. And I think that's a really, that truth of looking at what has made us shiny, look at what has made us sparkly, but also look at where we were wounded. And in the place where we were hurt, our resilient muscle grows, our love muscle grows, our empathy grows. So Bible says, in all things, God works to good. I don't wish harm on any human. I don't wish harm on any woman.
Right.
If you're in a relationship that hurts you, get out of there. I'm not saying that. I am saying, though, no matter what happens, you have the ability to turn that pain into wisdom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To be able to learn from that experience and grow through that experience. And even though, what your therapist said was graphic in the moment, it's a birthing, because I think of in my own journey, just different things that I've gone through and the pain that I experienced and having to birth something new out of that pain or that trying time. So absolutely, I definitely can see that. One of the other stories you kind of speak to in the part of talking about yourself, I'm trying to look at my notes here, during the time when you had to let go of some things.
Yeah.
How you had something happen where you didn't intend to let go, but you were kind of forced to let go due to a circumstance, and learning to travel more lightly because of that. And I have experienced that as well, where you have all these things that you cherish and you love and you want to hang on to, and something happens and you don't have those things anymore, whether it be through a fire or whatever the case may be. And then it's like you realize, well, now I have to start over, and it's okay. Now I can travel lightly.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I had a couple weird things happen right at the same time there, right? I had a car accident when I was about 22 years old. And I think the car accident was the beginning of the end of a relationship. And as the relationship broke, uh, I was brokenhearted, and I moved across country from California back to the East Coast. Had a fire on the moving van. What in the heck? How does that happen? All the stuff that's on the moving van burns up because the moving van touches some wires and torches all my stuff. The only thing that survives is my piano, uh, and it was never the same. But also, Marcie, like in the fire, there was something forged in the fire. You're alluding to my ability to open my hands, to let things go, to not be stridently tied to possessions. I've never been the same about that, and I've found more things than I've lost by opening my hands. And our church burned down last year, almost, and that was just crazy town. Like I still can't. Sometimes I'm like, what? But even in that fire, resilience was forged in the fire. Friendships forged in the fire. People all over the globe wrote us and sent us love notes because we burned down, and so there was this feeling of community that grew in the fire. And Marcie, during COVID and fire, 500 people joined Middle Church since last March.
Wow.
500 people joined the church.
That's a blessing.
It is a blessing. And it's like, why? Well, I think they found us. They found us in the fire too. So we found new allies and new partners in the fire. And I have found, I'm a woman of a certain age, and I am competent and strong and good and stuff. And I just don't have any idea yet what we're going to do about a new space. I just don't know. And I have to tell you, I have never, I don't know. Like, I don't know. People say, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. And I who always know have found comfort in not knowing, just laying back and waiting, actively waiting, pursue that, think about that, but like to wait for the universe to show you. Have you had that experience, Marcie, where you're like, I don't know, but I know it's coming. I don't know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
On its way. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. I mean, I'm in that space right now, to be honest with you, because there are a lot of things, with with Brown Girl Collective, which has been around for like 12 years, almost 13. And it's been a labor of love for so many years. About a year and a half ago, I started an actual book club, which is done on Mondays. And then, Live Well Sister as well. And, my desire is to branch out and to make, loving on Black women and supporting Black women my full-time job, and there've been a lot of new opportunities that have come my way, to step into that and to walk into that. And it's like, I have a therapist and we talk all the time. Yeah. She said to me, you need to start writing, make sure you're journaling all of this, because I know what you were telling me a few months ago, and I can see where some of these things are starting to manifest. And I know that even more is coming for you. So you need to write this down so you can remember exactly, how you spoke it or you said it or you wrote it and then it came to pass. So yeah, I definitely know about, being in that space of, I'm not sure where it is. I'm not sure what it's going to be. I'm not sure, how it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen.
It is going to happen. It's going to happen. It's like that West Side Story song. Could be, who knows? It's only just out of reach, on a church, on a beach, whatever. Maybe tonight something's coming. I don't know what it is, but it is going to be great. I guess that's faith. But I think it's also, wisdom, patience that comes from living a life, right? And having proof that we don't know exactly what tomorrow brings, but love can lift us up. We can make it. Good people around us, we can do it. Yeah. Yeah. And this is my dream.
You just
say what now?
Actually, you when you said the other people, that was like kind of the next thing, because in the book, after you talk about that relationship with self, then it's also in building those relationships and building that posse, as you call it,
Yes,
or
right.
tribe, or
Yeah,
village,
right.
whatever terminology you
Yeah.
choose to use.
Because we can't do it by ourselves, right? I mean, that's why your work is so important. This connection in our spheres. I have some girlfriends that are sister girl clergy, and if they're
Mm-hmm.
listening, Felicia and Emma, and Maureen and V and Allison, who we call Jarena Lee, and Leslie, all these women who are different, half a generation apart. Many of us gone to seminaries and studied a lot, but like, pound cake and champagne is what I think of when I think of them. Who's
Oh
going
wow.
to, right? We lost a friend who was a wonderful baker, but we're going to get
Mm,
together, we're going to talk, we're going to drink some champagne, we're going to eat some cake, or we're going to be in a text chain and we're going to say, how's it going for you? And that is such a important posse for me in which to be myself. If we are out of
mm-hmm.
touch, we are never out of touch, out of touch. There's a bunch of uh, faith leaders in this fellowship at Auburn Seminary where they're also my posse, and they are rabbis, and William Barber's in there, and Yvette Flunder, Bishop of Flunder, and like just so different, Muslim, Sikh, Buddhist,
Mm-hmm.
but also alike around uh, working working for justice and love and peace, and how good it is to also sometimes have posse that is different than you, but makes you reminds you of the deep well of sameness we have across race, ethnicity, religion. And that makes you think human. Oh yes, human is my identity, right? I'm also human. I'm a Black
Absolutely.
woman, and I'm also human, and that's a good reminder. So I don't think we can do this
Right.
life without those connections, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And one of the things you also talk about is being able to cross those boundaries, which you just
Yes.
mentioned, whether it's people of different faith or different races, or different sexual orientation, differently
Right.
abled, whatever that
Yeah.
case may
Right. Right.
be,
Right. Right.
that our posse, or our tribe, doesn't have to look just like us, or think just like us, or love just like us. It's just
Right.
important, because there are so many people that bring a wealth of knowledge or experience, or just the love that they have to offer, that sometimes, if we're so stuck in one way that it has to show up in one form, that there are things that you can miss out on.
I think that's so right, Marcie. And I'm trying to write in the book about um, these are these concentric circles, right? I mean, there's me, and there's my family, and then there's my cousins, and I dedicate the book to them. And the people who are like you are, of course, your first circle of posse. But the world is your tribe. The world is our village. That so that we can think that we women are connected to women in Afghanistan, women in Ciudad Juarez trying to get their kids across the border, and so that in my dream, the fierceness of our love makes us think of the whole of creation as our posse. That we title is think inclusively. They're your people too. So my people.
Right.
Oh my God! And this makes my head hurt when I say it because I'm working on it. But even those crazy, you know, anti-vaxxers, okay,
Mm.
or the or the January 6th insurrectionists,
Right, right.
okay, or the
Yes.
Trumpites, they're human too. And honestly, Marcie, I don't want to go camping with them. Hear me. I'm not trying to
No.
go to dinner with them. I'm not.
You are not
That's not
invited
what
to
I'm
the
saying.
cookout.
That's right. We are not coming over to my house. That's not what I'm talking about. But I do, right? No, 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 no. We will not have dinner with you. But I do find myself thinking about what is the discourse I want to have about them. And I'm in process here. But can I find a way through my writing, through my preaching, through my teaching, through social media to be a little less tangy, just a little less tangy. You get a lot of likes when you're tangy. But what
Mm.
if I'm trying to convert them to love? What's the language I use? I am working on this, girl. This is not finished. But I'm trying to think about how to be honest, to tell the truth, to call out the crap. Almost said the BS, call it out, and to leave people's souls not squashed. In other words, I don't want to be like them. I don't want to be like a white
Mhm.
supremacist as a Black lady. Like, I don't want to be like a racist, white supremacist bigot as an African American faith leader. I want to try to just think about my language, my discourse in such a way that I'm saying hell no to that,
Right.
and keeping people's humanity in mind. Can you feel me wrestling with that? I'm wrestling with that. But I feel like that's
Yes,
a
it is
destination,
a challenge.
right? Because
Mhm.
they're so
Mhm.
crazy. Sorry, y'all, but it's true,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And what does
I
it
mean,
mean to
that's
love our
true.
enemies? You know? Oof.
Right, right. And we know that, just thinking about Jesus, how Jesus was hanging with people that folks thought were undesirable and, and
And
just
exactly.
walking with them, and
Right.
how do we do that
I
in the world
know.
in
And
which we live?
I'm like, Jesus, you're expecting a lot
Mm,
sometimes. I think you are expecting a lot, Jesus. But I think there's something
right.
there about
Absolutely.
the Roman centurion, getting healed, or the woman caught in adultery, or the all the ways that the Rabbi Jesus, I love calling him Rabbi Jesus since he was Jewish, all the ways that he was
Hmm.
pointing to the, the way to deal with the other with compassion. That's what I mean. And I don't mean fake, I don't mean pretend, I don't mean go partying with people that don't love you, or don't care about your
Right,
body, or don't love your flesh. I am just
right.
talking about, can we create a different kind of energy that
Hmm.
allows us to speak differently? I'm brokenhearted that this congressman thought he should make an anime of killing AOC because he disagrees with her.
Mm,
That is just
right.
crappy, Marcie. That is not acceptable.
Mm,
It's not acceptable. No, it's not acceptable. And I don't want to be that person, on going the other direction, right? That's just not acceptable.
right, right. And and it is something that happens, even I'm thinking like in faith communities, and you touch on this a bit, that how we all know that our faith communities in many cases are very segregated,
Yes, they are.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then the fact that people will use their religion or their belief as a reason to justify their hatred
Yeah,
and things like
exactly.
that. So,
Yeah,
so it is a thing of,
exactly.
if you're really going to truly, and it doesn't have just to be race, it could be anything,
Yep. No,
bigotry
right.
against anything.
Right.
People can use religion in that way. And
As
so
a
that's why I
weapon.
really love that. Right. You do speak on that, and how we can, learn to, come together, and God is love.
God is
Really
love, period.
truly walk in love, and have, right, and to have a heart filled with love, not just for ourselves, but for, those people that are in our inner circle, but then also the world and the community at large. Because if you are a person of faith or a person of love, that's pretty much what you're called to do.
That is pretty much it. And it is, and our children are watching us, I I write about how my mother was this, barometer, like watch mommy's face and know how to feel. Watch mom, watch President Kennedy's funeral. Watch mom, learn about the 4 girls that got bombed and killed in the church. Watch mom, watch Kent State or whatever, all the things, and get a cue. right? This is what wrong is. This is what right is. So think about this, Marcie. Think about what our children are seeing.
Mm,
Oh, will they ever unsee Chauvin's knee on George Floyd's neck? Will they ever
mm,
unsee that? Will they ever unsee those flagpoles as weapons on January 6th? How will they ever unsee that? And even will they ever unsee? Will you and I think, will we ever unsee, dogs snapping it on, bodies and hoses turned on children? We're not going to ever unsee that. And we can see more and more now, thank you, smartphones. So, what do we want our children to see? What do we want them to learn by the way we be together? This is really my ardent prayer. No kidding. I have a 3.5-year old and a 1.5-year old grandchildren. And I think to
mm,
myself, you know, they're very smart and the media is moving and the TV is happening and it just is. So they're going to
mhm,
see the way Black people are treated and they're going to see the way we shout and they're going to hear how we talk about what we see. So the children are not only seeing, but they're hearing our commentary, right? What do we want them to do with that? Do we want to be
mm.
calling people the N word in front of our kids? And also, then, do we want to just have violent language about anybody? Do we want to use the F word about gay people?
Right.
Do we want to do that? I don't want us to do that. I want us to get
Mhm.
it together. And it is just
Right, because I
also
mean the
important.
reality.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No, I was just saying because the reality of it is, you're right. They're watching us, and the people that we're dealing with now, we're watching somebody. We're watching their people.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah.
things that they were saying, because
And doing.
back harkening back to the book where you talked about your experience where someone raced you.
Yes.
She was
Right.
hearing that this little girl who decided to say to you that was
I'm a
prejudiced
nasty N
towards you.
word.
She heard
Yeah.
that somewhere.
Yeah. She didn't make it
Yeah,
up,
she was
right?
too young to know that. So somebody
Yeah.
taught her that, because we don't
Yes.
come out of the womb knowing or understanding certain things. So somebody has to teach you that. So yeah,
That's
it
right.
is important to think
That's right.
of, what are children going to know? What are they seeing? What are they hearing? I
Right.
mean, this whole thing about critical race theory and how people are saying, which they're not being taught, but
No,
how people want to get away from telling the truth about what has happened to help people
yeah,
feel good. I'm like, but it's the truth.
it's the truth. And this is one passage in that chapter, Live Justly, that I'll just read really briefly, talking about my mom's death and her, the way she was a window to the world. If mom were here, I would tell her how damn tired I am of living in a country that treats Black grief as a threat and white rage as a sacrament, right? The core, there's lots of isms in America, but it is really super important as a Black woman talking to white folks and indigenous folks and all the folks. The core major sins in this nation is that the people seeking freedom come to this land and, quote, discover it when people live on it. So the way that they steal the land from the indigenous people and the way they steal our people
Mm,
off the shores of Africa and build a
right.
nation on stolen labor on stolen land. And I'm not trying to go like, oh, kumbaya, and not have that in the center of this. That my Black dad, who is 87 and has been angry about white folks, who has come to love the white folks in his life. I'm like, good on you, Miracle Dad, because the wounding of
Mm,
around race in the nation is horrible, Marcie, right? It's horrible.
mm, mm,
And still, and still, how do we in the Fannie Lou Hamer, Martin King, Malcolm X, post Mecca. How do we who are in a line of leaders do the hard, important, mission critical work of truth telling and accountability so that we can fix the nation? So, this book on love isn't about pretending that
Right.
it isn't horrible, right? It's horrible.
Right.
But the truth in love will make us free, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And our time is more close. I thank you for that, because I mean we've touched on so much, but yet not so much that the person doesn't have a reason to read the book. Because I don't believe in, this is a little different because it's not, like a story per se. It's not fiction. It's just life and your real world stories. But there is, as you can see from all of,
I love that you
there
have
is
marked
just
up
so
that book.
much.
That makes
We
me so
just hit
happy.
on some. Yes,
Marcie,
we have hit on highlights, but there
highlights.
yes.
Will you come into my podcast and talk to me? Can we do some more? Can I get
We
you to
can.
come in? I would love
Well,
to have you come. Let's do some more talking about
yes.
all the beautiful things. How to live well,
Yes,
sister.
because I mean, we can
Yeah.
do so much, only do so much in a short time. Absolutely. So, yes. Well,
Thank
hang on when we get done, and we'll figure out how we can do that.
Okay, let's do it.
But yes, it's just so important that we continue to have these types of conversations and open up people's minds to really embrace what it means to love themselves, to love others, and as you mentioned, to have this whole love army. Yes.
A love army.
We need a
Jan
love
Jones is
army.
the love army. We need a love
Yes,
revolution. Yes, we do. Marcie, thank you for
yes,
setting such a beautiful
yes,
table
we
for this
do.
conversation. I'm grateful to you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so very, and to those of you all who are joining us, whether you have joined us live or you will watch the replay, please get a copy of this book and mark yours up like I marked mine up. And follow, I do have it at the bottom. I meant to scroll it
Yes, you
earlier,
do.
but it is scrolling at the bottom now, the different ways that you can get in touch or stay in touch with Reverend Dr. Jacqui Lewis and all the wonderful things that she has on. And once she and I figure out when we're going to do the podcast, we'll make sure that about that as well. So just for those of you who are joining us, if you're joining it and it's pre-Thanksgiving and you celebrate Thanksgiving, enjoy your Thanksgiving, your time with your family, or just the long weekend, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And
love yourself
because it
all
is
the
a
way
holiday
through.
next Thursday.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I am going to be on hiatus because it's a holiday and I know no one will be watching. So, but I will be back in on December 2nd, the date is, and then we'll pick up with our next conversation from there. So, everyone have a great evening, a great day, whatever the case may be. Enjoy yourselves and love yourselves fiercely, love others fiercely, and stay well. Have a good one.
Thank you, Marcie. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome.